Hello and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and this is the final match ratings video of the 2024-25 season. Going over Everton's 1-0 win away at Newcastle. Again, another very unexpected 3 points, if you ask me, and going really have improved our way form, haven't we? And ended the season on a really positive note now. What was it? I think 4 games unbeaten to end the season, and yeah, obviously this was very much a case of spoiling the party for Newcastle, and obviously, it didn't quite work out that way. We did our bit, but obviously results elsewhere. I mean, Newcastle still managed to sneak into the Champions League, but that shouldn't take the shine off a really, really smash and grab isn't even really the right description for it because I think all the best chances fell our way and yeah I've recorded an instant reaction video to the game which you'll be able to find on the Toffee Blues channel. I go over the game a little in a bit more detail there, whereas obviously this one's going to be delving into the players individually a bit more. But yeah, without further ado, I mean the man of the hour once again, I'd probably say Jordan Pickford. Obviously was making up most of the headlines going into this game, as he always seems to do whenever we play Newcastle. Obviously with the extra incentive of Sunderland returning to the Premier League from the day before. I think a few of us wouldn't have been too surprised if he hadn't maybe made this game for various reasons, but you could tell fair play to him, he really wanted to start and try and spoil Newcastle's chances, of course, and yeah, it was a real top performance from him as ever. Newcastle didn't really have too many golden opportunities, I'd say. There were a few in the first half, I think, where they really tested Pickford a bit, but other than that, he didn't have any amazing saves to make. But anything Newcastle did throw at him, he was more than equal to, and obviously was captain today with both Tarkowski and Coleman out. Um, and yeah, I think the leadership really showed today, to be fair to him, and he's really shown his maturity in the last few fixtures against Newcastle. Obviously, he saved a penalty in the reverse fixture at Goodison back in October, but after his first few games in an Everton shirt at St James's, where he'd let the Newcastle fans get into his head a little bit, now it almost seems to spur him on even and make him play even better. So yeah, can't fault Pickford as ever. Would be a front runner for player of the season yet again. Obviously, it almost seemed like ridiculous to give it to him for what, a fourth season in a row. My vote would probably go for Gay, but regardless, another superb season from Pickford, another superb performance to end the season, and yeah, I think an 8 is probably fair enough for him. Moving on to the defence, obviously Ashley Young played his last game in an Everton shirt. Um, a real good feel good story, I think, Ashley Young's time at Everton. Obviously, the signing raised a lot of eyebrows when he was 38 when he first came through the door. But his experience has shone through. Um, and I think at the start of this season he was probably one of our best performers overall. And he came in today and did a really solid job. And yeah, having to deal with Livramento on the left in the first half, and Anthony Gordon as well, who obviously got hooked at half time, which a lot of our fans will probably have that would have raised a smile for many of them. But he dealt with it all really, really well. Um, and I think he's going to be a miss. It's the reports seem to be that we wanted to keep hold of him, but he's clearly decided he wants to move on. But I think he's been really, really solid for us, and this was another very solid game from him, and a 7, I think, is a fair rating. And then the centre back partnership, I have to give these two their flowers today, absolutely, because I think we were probably all a little worried going into this one. That for whatever your thoughts on O'Brien, who's obviously been very good since he came into the side, but him and Michael Keane are definitely the second choice centre back pairing. Let's be honest. And obviously up against the likes of Isak, Harvey Barnes, Anthony Gordon, you were maybe a bit worried about them being caught out a bit today, but it was anything but. They were both really, really solid and defended really, really well. I don't think either of them put a foot wrong, really. I think a 7 for both of them is a fair rating once again, really. And yeah, Mikalenko on the left gets another assist. A really, really good lofted cross, the kind of lobbed cross he kind of does now. Obviously, we saw to full effect with the Tarkowski Derby goal, but yeah, similar sort of cross here, picks out Alcaraz perfectly, really good header from him. And it was the sort of partnership that we'd seen in the first half as well. The same two linking up, and Alcaraz this time went for power the first time, and Pope was equal to it, but obviously, the second time was a much better outcome. But yeah, really positive from Mikalenka going forward today, and defensively as well. I thought he was very unlucky with his yellow card. Looked to me like he won the ball cleanly, and probably should have kicked out more of a fuss about that, to be honest. But yeah, another really solid performance from Mikalenka, who I think has ended the season very well. Um, and yeah, I think a seven for him as well, to be honest. Moving into the midfield, Idrissa Gueye and James Garner. I was actually very impressed with James Garner today. I know I seem to be saying this every week, but I know he's someone who divides opinion among the fan base. But I thought he had a really solid game today. Um, did his job, and we all know how competitive and combative Newcastle's midfield is. With Guimaraes and Tonali and that. But I thought we were more than equal to it today, and we were happy to let them pass it around on the edge of the penalty area, but keep the solid foundations. And a lot of the time, Garner was the one leading the breaks for us. So yeah, I think he gets a seven as well. To be honest, it was a very seven performance from everyone. If I'm being honest, so you'll probably see that throughout the video. To be honest, and then Idrissa Gueye next to him, just outstanding once again, as he has been all season. Obviously, as I record this, we're still uncertain about his future, and whether he'll be here next season. I really hope so. I think the majority of Evertonians would agree with me there. Despite his age, he's shown this season that he's still one of our most capable players, and one of the most capable players in his position in Europe. I'd honestly go as far to say that. The job he does, I don't think there's many other players who can do it. So I think we'd really struggle to replace him if he does leave in the summer. So fingers crossed we can keep hold of him. Another very solid performance from him today, even though he got the yellow card early on, which he seems to do a lot. To be fair, he's able to manage that very well, and is a lot less aggressive and a lot more, I think, smart, and is able to intercept a lot more rather than winning the tackles. So yeah, another very solid performance from Idrissa Gueye and another seven. And then moving ahead in the midfield into the wings, Jack Harrison. I think we're all probably hoping that's his last ever game for Everton, and that he's not here again next season because it's just what we've come to expect from him really today, wasn't it? It was poor, end product was poor, decision making was poor, and obviously, as always, tracking back, working hard, and obviously played the full 90 today, given with Ndai going off and Alcaraz looking goosed. But yeah, the quality's just not there, is it? And you need someone in that position who offers a lot more than him, I think. So hopefully he'll be going back next season. Um, Standard six from him. Didn't have an awful game, and like I say, defensive work probably stops him getting a five. But yeah, nothing more than that from Jack Harrison. Charlie Alcaraz obviously scores the winner. Again, on the other hand, I'm really hoping that's not his last game in an Everton shirt. I think most of us really want to see him signed on a permanent basis this summer. Another really good performance from him, to be honest. A very positive performance, driving with the ball on the counter attack. Really, again, really, I think suits his skill set. To be fair, and when the opportunity came as well, slipping passes through for Beto or for Harrison or Njai. And yeah, obviously, I say weighs in with another goal. Um, his return goal and assist has actually been very good for us, hasn't it? So yeah, been very impressed with him. Was very impressed with him today. Another seven. And then in Jai next to him, it's been a bit of an interesting one because obviously I thought last week against Southampton he was outstanding. Obviously scores twice, looked really, really fired up for it. You could tell he wanted to be the last person to score at Goodison Park. Um, Today it wasn't quite the same. Don't get me wrong, there was still some really good moments. There was a really good run early on in the second half where you're just like, how has he kept hold of the ball there? But a few wrong decisions, and obviously um, pulls up injured once again. That's something that really needs to be worked on in the summer. Um, Addressing whatever issue he's had that's been like giving him issues the last few weeks. Um, so yeah, his performances I've dipped a little bit, obviously with the exception of the Southampton game last week, as I've mentioned. But we all know just what sort of quality player is in there. So hopefully, once he returns to full fitness, he'll be back to it at the start of next season. I'll give him a 6 today. I feel a little harsh giving that, but it's honestly just not to give out another 7, to be honest. And then finally, Beto, I thought was fantastic again today, and I think the last few weeks he's really shown some serious improvement in his game. Obviously, we saw some improvement in his goal scoring early on. Well, towards the midpoint of the season when Moyes first came in, when he went on that purple patch. Then the goals kind of dried up, and then he came back with a few more in the last few weeks. Obviously, didn't score today, but had a few couple of chances that he kind of made for himself. Really, it was one of those games where because we were so deep in our own area for most of the game. It was mostly a thankless task, him chasing long balls and battling with their defenders. But most of the time, he conducted himself really well, I thought. Um, and I think he's really showing improvement in his hold-up play and is becoming a more intelligent player. And I really hope we keep hold of him next season. Obviously, it's still a little bit up in the air, the striker situation. I'd imagine that's probably Calvert-Lewin's last game for us. I could very feasibly see him being at Newcastle, funnily enough, next season. Um, so if it's a case of keeping hold of Calvert-Lewin or Beto, which I think it might very well be, I think the obvious choice has got to be Beto. So yeah, really impressed with him once again today. Works his socks off, and played a huge hand in us getting that win. Another 7. Um, and then I don't really think there's too much point going into the subs. Obviously, most of what their work was doing was defensive. Um, but I've been really impressed with Dwight McNeil since he came back. Um, and then Decore, last ever game in an Everton shirt, ran about quite a lot as always, and I think helped to shore up any holes in the midfield and made Newcastle's task even harder as he is done throughout his time at Everton. And then Calvert-Lewin, as I mentioned, should have scored. Really wasteful in front of goal once again, to be honest. Just doesn't have the same work ethic as Beto, does he? And I honestly think Beto's more clinical in front of goal. So for me, I think it's a no-brainer who you keep hold of, as I mentioned. So yeah, ending on a bit of a sour note there, I guess. But and yeah, and it's a shame if that is going to be his final game in Everton shirt, how it's ended. And obviously, I don't condone any of the abuse him and his wife have suffered in the last week, of course. But yeah, that's another discussion topic altogether. But yeah, the focus has to be on another really great win to round off a pretty impressive season, all things told, to be honest. And it's been nice to be able to enjoy the last few weeks without any worries of relegation whatsoever. So hopefully next season it's even more upwards. So yeah, that pretty much rounds up this one. So please leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment below giving your ratings and your thoughts on the match as a whole. Subscribe to the Toffee Blues channel for more Everton content, and we will see you in the next video. Up the Toffees.